You hear that? The sound of bold ideas.
Welcome to the UX Rotterdam Podcast. We are recording from Raw CC. My name is Nauke Leon. I'm the co-founder of UX Rotterdam. And in this podcast, we will talk with designers, leaders, and other creative thinkers who are shaping how design, technology, and human experiences are evolving, especially in times of rapid change. In today's episode, I'm joined by Amrita Joerawan.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Amrita is founder of Gain Solutions and also founder of Go Deep, an inclusive tech platform. But maybe to introduce yourself as a Rotterdam native, what do you think of our city?
Our city. I think I'm 43 years old, so I've seen the city change over time. It's more like a metropolitan type of city. I've been to New York maybe now 3 times. It reminds me a lot of New York. Maybe even a bigger melting pot of cultures now. I think we're now around 230 nationalities. And it shows. The city is vibrant, it's changing, never a same day. I do meet a lot of people I know for the last few years, and I do see a lot of new people coming in instead of Amsterdam, which is nice to see. And I can also see it in the companies and the talent that comes into Rotterdam. So yeah, I'm really positive about it.
And from your background, you look especially at different cultures.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the shift in these differences, and how the people in Rotterdam are changing as well, more into an international setting?
I don't know about that. Because of my international background and my multicultural background, I always had similar people around me. In Rotterdam, we always had a few bigger groups compared to what we have now. People from Suriname, from Indonesia, Cabo Verde, the Dutch Antilles as well. And now it's more mixed. So I would say it's only welcome. Is culture changing? Yes, every day, but not so much in ethnicity or cultural diversity. It's more what you make of it with each other. And one of the things that comes together is Rotterdam culture.
But I think one of the interesting developments is also in, let's say, younger generation students, but also young professionals. Mm-hmm. What I see is a much more international audience.
Yeah, you walk into campus nowadays, and I think half of the student base is international, which is also encouraged. I think it's great, especially for young people. We are a city with a lot of opportunities. We need talent. And we also need fresh, young talent to make sure the change is happening that we need to go to. But they do have a different need in what they want in a career, in a life, in expectations towards an employer, maybe even in where we're going right now with technology. I think it's been going on for about 5 years now, the change, and we are now actually at the start of big tech change, especially with artificial intelligence. And I can tell, especially with younger generations, they are thinking about the influence of that into their career and daily life. Yeah.
So let's go to your platform.
Mm-hmm.
When did you came up with this idea? What was the need for you to build this platform?
It solely started purely from my own frustration. I've been working on in international HR for about 20 years. And also with my clients, because we are an independent agency, I kept noticing how they are struggling with, I think, the combination of always the change, trying to keep up with it, the culture that is also changing, and also the effect on their employees. And it changes the relationship between employers and employees. And one of the things I got concerned about is especially the employee experience and employer experience related to health and wellness, because at one point I started seeing so many people calling in sick, and the most obvious reason was mentioned burnout. And I thought, this is not going the way we want to do. I mean, we're heading into 2026. You would think mankind should know better than this, but we don't. And it's actually a field that we're still trying to figure out what works for a company in general. But you also want to make sure it's a personal experience for the employer, and you want to give them, and the employee, and you want to give them the personal touch, attention they deserve, but also trying to balance that. So the platform was more like being a bridge between an employer and an employee, giving them the tools to make more data-driven decisions. Now with AI, we can do quantitative and qualitative analysis, which is great. And we also give those tools to employees. So you're also responsible for your own health and career.
But going back to the reason why you wanted to build this platform, I think from human reasons, let's say, we can say that after COVID, a lot of people, especially in more the younger generations, started to have mental problems.
Yeah.
Well, what can you tell about the reasons about?
What we noticed in the field is COVID was tough for everyone. For the employers, just trying to keep alive as a company. For employees to be agile, changing circumstances. All of a sudden, we had to work from home. Remote working was already implemented with a lot of companies, but not at a scale as this. And it wasn't like you can go to the office 2 days a week and then the hybrid form. No, you had to stay at home full time. And then we noticed that people started saying, I miss human contact. At the end of the day, we are human beings and we need contact. You don't need to have it full time, but at least something, which is also the reason why we're going back to hybrid models nowadays. I can tell also with younger generations that, let's say the millennials are a bit older, my age, and they also have younger children at home. So you had to find your balance. All of a sudden your kids are at home. You have to do the household. Then you have your partner, you have yourself, you have your job. It's a bit too much. People started saying, it's too much for me. They call in sick. And then there's this junior talent generation who were supposed to go to the office, and then you get like a buddy or a mentor, and you get a traineeship. You can walk with someone along the job, and that is no longer there. So I even heard from some people that they never went to the office at one employer and they already left. And the younger generation actually says, I want to stay home. I want to have the benefit of remote working, hybrid working, but I also need some guidance. And somewhere along the way, we are trying to find our way into that. And that's a more new way of working.
And maybe a strange connection I'm looking for, but what's the influence of social media on this?
Oh, so much. I mean, we had also the younger generation hates LinkedIn, which is really funny, but most of them are now on TikTok. I'm also on TikTok just to understand the sentiment right now. And there's a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of frustration and pain on social media about people sharing their experiences, especially young people, regarding their job, their employer. As an HR professional, it gives a very one-sided story about what's happening in the market globally. And I see especially younger people believing everything that's on social media. And that's a concern.
And do you also mean that social media can give a wrong impression of how life is really about?
Definitely. I know some people who call themselves influencer, and they portray themselves really different than in real life. And it creates so many different and wrong expectations towards themselves as an employee, as a young talent, but also towards an employer. And it also, at the end, it creates friction in the relationship. I also noticed that a lot of people don't really know how to regulate their emotions and then have inclusive communication. It's not always that deep, and sometimes it is deep, and you need to have that conversation, and people shy away from that.
Yeah.
And then they get weird advice from some kind of social media influencer who never had the experience of working in the office most of the time.
Yeah, let's make a little bridge to the creative industry, especially when it comes to designers, researchers. Speaking from my own experience, being a designer, you need to use a lot of skill sets, and not just technical skill sets, but also more personal and social skill sets, because you have to do a lot of interviews. You have to put yourself in the user's perspective. Do you think that that's nowadays almost too difficult to do all these different kind of skill sets in one time? Do you think that brings a lot of pressure towards this kind of roles?
I think it has to do with how grounded are you as a person. Do you give yourself room and space to grow into a skill set that is needed and is always changing? And are you also in an environment, in a culture that actually supports that? So it starts with yourself. And I would also say the industry, especially the creative industry, is tough. I know some people in it, not only UX people, and they keep saying the standards are so high, the pay is quite low, and especially for younger people, it's quite challenging to keep up. Also with all the development in your industry. I wonder, sometimes I do wonder, you work most of the time 9 to 5. And if you're lucky, you work 9 to 5 on client cases. But is there still time for you to take a breath and have some educational time, or even having a social life? Because sometimes people forget that a social life is also really important to have, and it keeps you sane as well.
But imagine I'm one of these younger designer working at a corporate company, maybe feeling this pressure. How would I find solutions to keep myself mentally fit?
I would say go to the platform. Nah. I mean, it's a possibility. I would say what we do on the platform, finding out is who are you? What works for you? And what works for you is not always what works for someone else. If you look at social media right now, you can get a lot of information on basic help and advice. I would say the basics one is what everyone knows: eat healthy, eat clean, exercise. Make sure you spend time with family, friends, because social life is important, human contact. Go for a walk during the day. Just don't sit at your computer all day. Stretch. Those are the basic things. And then there's a whole lot of space to find out what really is what gets you going. Also, what we found out is one of the things we keep saying on the platform is work should energize you, not drain you. And that's also what we were talking about just now, that enormous skill set. Maybe you don't have to do everything on a level 10, but some of the stuff you're not really good at or it's draining your energy, maybe you can get it to a level 6 and find someone in the team who actually enjoys doing that and is a 10 on that. And that also requires communication, vulnerability, willing to show courage, authenticity to go there. Yeah. And if you find out what we call it a SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats analysis we make. If you find out what your SWOT is, it usually gives you a lot more direction in finding out from 9 to 5 or everyday life what gives you energy. And we also give a lot of tools. We have now a database of 750 micro tools, and people are saying that they are experimenting with it and they find out what works for them.
But in a way, I mean, it's still digital. Huh? You still have to do it by yourself. How do you connect with others? Is there a community also behind this? Can I ask for advice?
We do have a community. It's an app, but also web-based, because I wanted to make sure people who do not want another app on their phone can also log in on the web. There's a community there that it's like, maybe I could say a bit like TikTok. You can connect freely. I don't want to push anything. That's one of the things we didn't want. Push is taboo. We do pull. And what we are planning on doing as well are real life meetings. We will start in Rotterdam and do workshops. And it adds into what can you do every day with your profile, and every day getting better at finding out who you are, what works for you. And we also go live every once in a while. But I noticed that going live is...
like events? Or
No, live as in online.
Okay.
So the live part is online, and then we do events workshop, which is human live. But I noticed that especially younger generations like the human side, and they want to do something. It needs to be helpful. So we are going live because we need to do that as well. But we want to go a bit more into how can we build out the community in a human-centric form, which is my biggest challenge right now.
Yeah, I think it's a really great idea, and of course you are still at the beginning, huh? So hopefully it will work out and become a success.
It will. I know it will. Yeah.
But back to real life. Yeah, in your vision, how do you see the let's say the future of mental health? What is going to be the biggest trigger?
I think the biggest trigger are the market changes right now. I attended a hackathon last week of the Ministry of Economic Affairs, and alone the Netherlands, but also Europe, is pushing towards more AI. And I noticed that they were all talking about the technology side and forgetting that people have to work with the technology. So I was missing the human-centric side. That is something that's one of the dangers in this, that we do not have that much attention to it. And if you do not give attention to the human side, then we are already in a crisis of mental health. I don't even want to imagine what we are going into if we do not tackle this right now. It really concerns me.
Can you share numbers? Percentages?
I think globally we are now Gen Z and millennials. I think we're now at 70% that actually mention that they are suffering mental health issues. Depends on where you are, because in the Netherlands it's quite regulated work. I mean, you're not allowed to work more than 40 hours a week. We have actually really good legislation on that. But if you look at the US and Asia, it's a totally different market, and people are really burning out there. But at the moment, the market is not great. People are getting laid off, so the fear is high, and they keep working just to keep their job. So the mental health scare goes up. The numbers of calling in sick is going down, but people are sick. And at the long run, it will have a huge impact on the person, on the company, but also on society. So that is, I think, one of the biggest threats right now is how society is changing into a more digital one without really taking in consideration, taking along the people in it, the human-centric point of view of it.
So in that case, personal relationships, communication.
Yeah.
What can you tell about this?
I would say with social media and the tools we have right now, I see a lot of people, instead of calling someone or just going to someone's desk at the office, if you are at the office, people just use something like WhatsApp, or they have a voice note. And sometimes I wonder if that is the most effective way of communicating. And then if you look at the conversation, most of the time, I'm not surprised it goes into conflict, because a lot of people lack understanding what a good dialogue is. And if you're under stress, then everything feels like an attack, or the other person is also working on a deadline and they also feel attacked. And I'm like, can we please chill out a little bit? It can be helpful to have more inclusive communication. And it's really easy. It's like a framework, context, look at it from facts. What did it do to you? What did it do to me? What is actually my need? And what are we asking? And if you have that in a framework and you don't go into the emotional side of it at the moment, most of the time it's very clear on what you're talking about, what you need and what you want from each other. And that can be done in 5 minutes. But a lot of people don't know the framework and don't have the basics of it. Also because I believe they don't get out to practice very often. We're not at the office anymore that often. I learned this in my early career when I was in the office, 9 to 5, 5 days a week, maybe even 6 days a week. If you're at home and you do digital work and most of the work is done alone, how can you practice? So I tell people one of the things you can do is go out, do a little bit more social life. Also, one of the things I notice, especially with people, is that they hate networking, which is also socializing. And I'm like, I'm really good at networking, by the way. I just go somewhere and I think, maybe today I'll meet some new people. And most of the new people are like, I like your energy. You're a very interesting person. I don't need to feel like I'm talking about business. I just walk into a nice coffee shop, have some coffee or tea with someone, and a conversation starts.
But it sounds, really simple. What you are indicating now, and the tips and the tools that you are giving. But I can imagine that in real life, it's still, kind of confronting yourself to talk with people can be difficult.
Yeah, but go for it.
So we should educate ourselves again to learn how to communicate.
To go out and have a social life. Instead of saying, I will have lunch behind my desk, go out for a walk with a colleague, go out for a walk with one of your neighbors, or just go to a coffee shop. And maybe that time you will sit alone and you will have no contact, which is not true, because you can also have contact with someone that works there. Also a way of practicing, but get yourself out there. And most people are willing to have a nice short talk to you, despite what a lot of people may think. I mean, most people go to a coffee shop or work remotely, take their laptop with them and want to have a chat with someone during the day.
This is going to be also part of your talk, right, at UX Rotterdam?
Yes. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to embed into it, because I want to do a little bit of doing. So it's not really a keynote. It's more like a workshop, but it's a big room with a lot of people. So my challenge is to see how can I engage all those people in doing something, getting energy from it, but at the same time, give a little bit of inspiration and education as well.
And I think although it's not a typical UX topic, I can already say that there are a lot of people interested in your talk. I get a lot of questions about it. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too.
Thanks for joining this episode.
Thank you for the invite.
And I think it was a really inspirational conversation
and
a really important topic. For everyone listening, if you want to know more about Amrita, if you want to know more about other speakers, visit our website, uxrotterdam.com.
Yeah.
I hope to see you next time, and stay curious.